Yo, what's up with y'all, man? I hope you're doing good. If you're new and you're a fan of the NBA, subscribe to this channel. So let's get straight into it.
It's like it's Minute Maid, hijack 4, renegade, 24, number 8, Kobe shit fade away, ballin' since 11th grade, still in school, let them hate.
The Atlanta Hawks, they're in one of the most lit cities in America. The food is great, the city is beautiful, and so are the girls, and the crackheads are superhero-like. It's a great city, just a great city that doesn't have a great basketball team. Atlanta doesn't even know what an Eastern Conference final win looks like because it's never been done before in team history. That feeling, that talk is just a completely different language. It's really foreign to us, and that's really sad. We're one of the very few teams in the league who hasn't reached that milestone yet, but that milestone could actually be met sooner than later, if and only if the right cards are played and the dominoes fall as expected. Atlanta has a rare chance to do something that's never ever been done before in team history. And that's to truly be a great team. Not mediocre, good, or very good like the teams of the past that you may have witnessed. There's a level to this, and that's a level that we haven't been able to beat yet. We have an opportunity, but this opportunity will only be granted if you follow me on Instagram. Yeah, go ahead and do that, I DM back. But seriously, it'll only happen if these 4 critical decisions are made correctly. This up-and-coming season for the Atlanta Hawks is at worst case scenario expected to be one of the last or the last year that they're in the lottery. After this past season, they're expected to be actually competitive, as the team's franchise player Trae Young goes into his 3rd season averaging 29 and 9, and their 2nd best player John Collins goes into their 4th season averaging 21 and 10. The Hawks are actively hunting and are in search for the perfect 2nd or 3rd option, and what better place to do that than the NBA draft? This is the most organic way to go about things, and in this year's draft class there are several options that they can go with. But what's the best option and what'll get them towards the top quick? Well, let's first look at their weak points and what they could actually strengthen up. You see, I wouldn't say that there's a glaring hole at any specific position, but they for sure can strengthen one up. So if you ask me personally, as a Hawks fan who spent time all season long pulling out his hair, well, like when I had hair, pulling out my hair all season long, I just need way more reassurance at the 2 spot. I'm sorry, I like Kevin Huerter and I love his potential, but with how this team's built, we will never be able to reach the next level because of his weaknesses starting next to Trae Young. His defense isn't where it needs to be yet, and his confidence is wishy-washy at times. So for that, I feel like he'll be better off as a great 6-man for this team. A solid 13 to 15 points per game off of the bench combined with the solid playmaking is something very realistic in my eyes. If this team was to ever be a contender, it'll feature Kevin Huerter coming off of the bench being the 6th man, and definitely not the starting shooting guard, unless he magically becomes great at defense, which is pretty unlikely. With that information, you should automatically have at least one, really 2 prospects in mind that the Hawks should select. The first option is clear as day. It ain't no surprise, that man Anthony Edwards. The storyline is just way too perfect to not even fantasize about. Anthony, the 6'5" physical freak, is exactly the type of player that fits our needs and even our identity. He's a good shooter despite what his field goal and 3-point percentage tells you, and a very capable defender who just needs a coach to put him in his place and keep him focused. The man will also be a tremendous secondary ball handler next to Trae. Also, it really doesn't matter, to be honest, and I really shouldn't be saying this, but his swag and charisma out there on the court fits way too well alongside Trae and John Collins. His confidence and the tone that he sets on the court is exactly what this city needs even more of. His presence alone could kill most of the worries that Hawks fans have, but that'll only happen if we at least, I promise you, the man's not going out of the top 3. We have to get a top 3 pick. But as we know, as usual, the draft is wishy-washy too, and we could very well slip. So if we do happen to slip, then I'd personally like to go for the 6'5" French point guard Killian Hayes. I'd personally push for him because he'd help unlock Trae Young, so he can be even more of a versatile offensive player than he already is, and his true form could finally be revealed much sooner. The only way that happens though is if the ball isn't gorilla glued onto that man's hands. Now I know this, he's not Steph Curry and he's nothing like Steph Curry, you ain't gotta tell me. The only thing that they have in common is that they're both light-skinned and they like to shoot threes from dummy far. With someone who has the gift that Trae has, he should be doing Steph-esque things. Bro, I ain't even asking for too much. I just want to see the man run around the court, run around screens here and there and get some open looks. Because Trae is actually a fantastic catch and shoot player. He just rarely gets that opportunity because once he's not in control of the offense directing traffic, all hell breaks loose. Killian Hayes would allow him to do that more often without the offense being in shambles, because he's much more of a gifted passer and facilitator than Ant, and he's also a much better pure shooter as well. The main trade-off between the 2 prospects as I see it is that Ant-Man will more than likely be the better defender, but that's not to say that Killian Hayes will be a liability. Also, I feel like Anthony is more NBA ready and will go through less growing pains than someone compared to Killian Hayes. So the draft is the very first critical decision that this team must go through. If they don't end up getting this right and select the most random prospect ever, or if they get done dirty in the lottery, then that alone could completely foil the plans that they have of being great one day. But phase 2 could potentially save that screw up if that does happen. Let's see what it is. As of late, one of the more popular trade ideas for the Hawks happens to involve Bradley Beal. Obviously, this move is a move for immediate success. If this idea does become a real thing, it will most definitely involve our 2020 pick. I personally only believe that this becomes a possibility if we miss out on the following Killian Hayes and Anthony Edwards in the draft, and end up being dealt with something like the 6th, 7th, or 8th pick. And that'll most definitely be pain because I was looking forward to having a pretty natural rebuilding process. But it is what it is. I am tired of being sorry just like you. If a deal like this was to take place, our pick is definitely gone, and so is Kevin Huerter. That man is out of here. And possibly, as I painfully say this, Cam Reddish and or DeAndre Hunter. If a trade like that was to take place, it'll look something like that, even though I don't think it's a high possibility. But with a move like that, we for sure have a playoff team just off of the muscle of Trae Young and Bradley Beal. But with that being said, that'll mean that the big three that they're most likely riding with in JC, Beal, and Trae would be their big three at least for the next 2 to 3 or possibly 5 years. If that trade rumor doesn't happen though, then what they could do instead of that is juice up their roster even more than free agents. But in this year's free agency class, we really can't be out here walking with a high horse and think we're the stuff and that we're gonna land some big players, because there really isn't any big time players out there right now that make sense for us and we don't make sense for them. So this summer that's been hyped up for the Hawks these last 2 to 3 years has kind of been a letdown. This was supposed to be the summer that we cashed out on a top tier talent. So right as they're about to roll around the corner of free agency, there ain't jack out there for us to actually cash out on, or even worth the investment. This is the third critical decision that has to be made. So with this decision, the Atlanta Hawks management must be super wise enough to pick and choose which role players can give this team a growth spurt. A good amount of our failures last season were due to the fact that we didn't have many good veterans at all, if any. There were almost no moves made during free agency, and our best acquisition made was bringing in Jabari Parker, which seemed like cool and all at first, but like, come on, man, let's be realistic over here. Jabari Parker had no business in the first place ever being Atlanta Hawk. We need defense and shooters everywhere we look. Joe Harris should be on our board. Marcus Morris, Jeremy Grant, Davis Bertans, P. Millie if he wants to run it back. Guys like that are always key to a young team. They help their growth. I ain't gonna lie, that just may be one of the most underrated levels of importance when it comes to how to rebuild a team the right way. Teams like the New Orleans Pelicans wouldn't be so successful without guys like JJ Redick, Drew Holiday, and Derek Favors. Players like Tyus Jones, Jonas Valanciunas, Kyle Anderson, and Jay Crowder for a bit on the Memphis Grizzlies played a big role for their success. I can go on and on and on about why this is so important to a team's development, but I'm sure that you get it now. The last critical step that'll take place, that'll determine just how good this team is in the future, lies in exactly what this team decides to do with John Collins. So check me out. I personally didn't think that I'd ever see this day coming. I mean, who did? After his major growth spurt in production last year, I promise you that everyone swore that this man would remain a Hawk for a very long time. The insane thing about his numbers in year 2 is that he never actually got any plays ran for him by coach. Most of his buckets were given within the flow of the game. He wasn't someone that we catered our offense to. Everything just happened on the fly for him, largely due to the fact that defenses are so terrified of Trae that they leave the paint pretty open for one of the best finishers in the game. On offense, he's the perfect match for Trae, and he helped us find our identity. The issue with John that many people have is that defensively, he's literally the worst type of player that you can pair up with Trae. So not only is that an issue, but the pairing of him and Clint Capella isn't one to be absolutely hyped about either, because they like to do their damage in the same area and they exceed at the same type of things. They don't really complement each other too well offensively. Now yes, John Collins is a great shooter. He shot 40% from the 3-point line. That, I ain't gonna lie, that's one of my proudest flexes as a Hawks fan. My power forward did that right there. But I'm not sure how I'd feel about him taking even more threes and taking less easy twos. So there's slight friction right there. And what's causing even more friction, issue number 3, is John Collins publicly announcing that he wants a max contract. Now I ain't gonna lie, if I'm John Collins, I believe I deserve that too, because do you understand how much growth he made compared to year 1 to now? He was the 19th pick in the 2018 or 17 NBA draft. I just caught myself. No editing over here, boy. Literally nobody thought that he could be what he is today. His production on the court and straight numbers wise does suggest that he may deserve a max contract. Betterment of our future. For now at least, the Hawks sort of refrain from that. And because of that, our intentions being sort of unclear, this trade talk around John Collins has been sort of real. So here's the thing, if I'm Atlanta, now don't get me wrong, I am a John Collins stan. He's my favorite player on the Atlanta Hawks, and you know I'm a Hawks fan, so Take this how you want it. While taking every single thing into account, I'm pulling out all the mental notes that I've kept stashed in my drawer and in my pockets over the last few years about John Collins. I'm doing all that to make this franchise-changing decision. Considering John's growth over the years and how aware he is about his weak points in his game and just how important he is for this team's chemistry, I'd bargain with him and try to do my very best to keep him. A lot of people take his game and skills for granted. Now, yes, I am fully aware that he does, benefit a lot from playing with a top-tier point guard like Trae Young. But we cannot act like power forwards like him are just found up off of the streets and they were easily replaceable. They're not. Players like Clint Capella, though, on the other hand, are very replaceable. The least amount of money I'd offer him is 17 to 18 mil, and the most amount of money that I'd offer him would be 23 to 24 mil. I would do that and go ahead and experiment this whole thing. Don't knock it until you try it. And if he doesn't end up fitting well with Clint Capella, then I'd move on from one of the two. For either a 5 who complements John Collins or a 4 who complements Capella and can play, make, shoot, defend, and all that stuff. I just gave you guys not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 of the Atlanta Hawks' most critical decisions to make this offseason. They have all the potential in the world. Trae Young was already an all-star. John Collins looks like he's on the way to be an all-star. Cam Reddish got crazy potential and could actually be our starting 2 or 3 in the future. And we also have a lottery pick coming in the next few months. They have all this potential, but it just takes one mishap to screw it all up. End of the video though, man. I really do appreciate you for coming over here on my channel and seeing what I have to talk about today. That is extremely dope. Now, before you leave, what I want you to go ahead and do is go ahead and follow me on Instagram. And I also want you to go ahead and make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, and yeah, man, I want you to do all those good things, and I want you to let you know that I really do hope that you go ahead and make your day great. But until then, I'll get right with you.
No way, Remember back when I couldn't get a play, No home, I ain't have a place to stay, I got to work, made the surf, free the way, Told my girl who'd ever thought.